know that if you give me the opportunity to talk, you'll regret it. First, I want to just take a minute and say that the outstanding grads this year are, except for, I'm sorry, French and Spanish, I've had in my 232 class. And so I get an opportunity to see absolutely every student in our program. And so when it comes time for us to do awards, I'm probably one of the most vociferous ones on the email list saying yes, no, and here's why. And so I think that we've picked really the cream of the crop this year. And I've been very proud of each of the students that's receiving an award because I've had each of them in class. And I could tell you stories, you know, about Dave and Matt and Sarah and of course Staci, which I'll do in a minute. But you know, it means so much to me as someone who sees all of you coming through the program to see so many wonderful successes. Now I'll talk about Staci Hirsch. Staci, as outstanding graduate from the BA program in literature, is one of those students who you have to marvel at. She has a tenacity for life that I'm in awe of. And I'm particularly in awe of it since I was diagnosed last fall with cancer. This is a woman who, in her own state of health, has been struggling for so long, and yet she found the time this last fall to come to my office with a blanket that she and a friend had made for me. And so, you know, she is someone who is always giving that extra to her friends, to her faculty, to her peers. And she always looks beyond her own troubles. And so I have to admire her first in that way. When we were talking about this award and talking about what outstanding meant, over and over again I had to come back and say, it's not just GPA. I don't care if you have a 4.0 GPA. If you are not engaged in your coursework, if you are not engaged with your faculty, if you are not engaged with the other students in your program, and then further than that, engaged outside the classroom, you're not outstanding as far as I'm concerned. And we have a lot of students who are very high GPA folk, you know, and this is not to say Staci isn't. Everybody that's here is a high GPAer, but we have people who have jumped the hoops and who do what they need to do that is required by their faculty, and so we give them the A. But do we think in our hearts that they are outstanding? No. We think they met the requirements for the course and therefore they get the A. So for me, when I talk about outstanding, what I want to see is a student who excels at all sorts of levels, and maybe GPA is not that important to them, that they might actually take a class that challenges them and say, forget my GPA, you know? Or in the case of Staci, she's had to retake some classes because of illness. You know? This is a student who, you know, when you first look at the transcript, you're thinking, what's going on here? You know, she still has that high GPA, but what happened here and here? And then when you hear that she has this illness, you realize that she hasn't been held back by it. She's just had a few bumps in the road, and she keeps coming back and going forward. Now, as a literature student, Staci has been in my classes. Pop Lit, Studies in Fiction, were you in World Lit? I'm trying to remember. They're all a blur after, you know, a year. And then Harry Potter. And each time she has written for me papers that have really engaged me. And she has looked really at things that are personal to her to bring into those papers, like the relationships between parents and children. And as a mother, of course, you know, that would be important to her. And so she looks for some of those things in the literature and then brings back a literary analysis that is just astounding. So she brings, I think, some interesting perspectives in. You know, she starts with, where am I? What do I know? What am I interested in? And then from there can build a lovely analysis of a work of literature, or in the case of Harry Potter, the 7 books. And so she is a very good literary scholar. Finally, I just want to say something really about how much I've appreciated having her in class, because as a student, she is always engaged. She will start discussions, you know, as you're standing up there at the front of the room, and you know that nobody's going to talk. And then you look hopefully over at Staci, and she opens her mouth and she starts a discussion. You can rely on her in classes to do this. And I know from talking to other faculty that this is an important trait that our students bring to the class. You know, it's one thing to sit there and absorb. It's another to put your foot out there and to have a thought and hope that maybe it's interesting, hope that it's engaging, hope that it's right. You know? And Staci, time and again, I've counted on her to give us that boost in class that we really need in literature, because literature is often so much about the interaction of peers and discussion of a work. And then finally, I want to talk about Staci taking all of that out of the classroom. For a long time, she has shared her writings about books online. She has submitted papers online so that others can read them. And she has done, over the last few years, these book reviews, so much so that companies, publishers, have come to her and asked her to review their books, pre-publication. And so she receives books in the mail that she then turns around and reviews for the publisher before the book ever comes out. You know? So she does this out of the interest that she has in literature. It's not a paying job. It's about love of literature, love of scholarship. And this is what I think truly makes her an outstanding Bachelor of Arts graduate in literature. All right, so Staci, come on up and we are also very happy to have Staci here today because she has been undergoing so many tests, and it's been so hard to get her here on campus. So, as a matter of fact, she arranged her tests to get here today. So, there you go.
Next, we celebrate